This is the last day celebrating yourself as women, but today marks the last day of our live series with powerful, amazing, empowered women that are here to share their energy and inspiring stories with you. So today I want to introduce to you an amazing mentor who is a wealth creation mentor, finance writer, owner and founder of a award-winning finance and mortgage solutions company. She's a mom of 3 beautiful daughters. She's also a friend of my mom's, and she is a descendant of Paramahansa Yoganandaji. So for those of you that don't know who that is, he's like the pioneer of all yogis that come from, Calcutta. So she also loves to help expats and migrants get super rich. I hope you listen to that one. So thank you so much for making time today, Madhuji, to come to our platform and share your energy and passion. How are you? Would you like to say something now?
Good afternoon, and thank you very much for giving me the platform to share, because I think we have both met under very personal circumstances, and we've had a very frank discussion around a time when you were looking to set up your yoga studio. And I think that we as women always want to do things. We look to other people as role models, including men and women. So my journey in wealth has been very much around that if a man can be a family's principal breadwinner, why can't I be the principal breadwinner? So I think my intention is very much to encourage that whatever we have gone through in life. Like, I am actually brought up by a single mom in Delhi, but I went to one of the best schools. I went to a university. I've trained as an architect from School of Planning and Architecture. And I think although I was trained in architecture, but then coming here, I was given a great opportunity by my first employer to move into finance, because finance seemed to be very integrated into our daily lives and also the work in buildings and property. And from there on, in 1990s, when there was a recession, and the kind of people I met at that time were migrants like myself, and a lot of people were not in jobs. The recession of 1990s was quite prolonged, and it was something that probably hardest hit the migrants, especially the newly arrived migrants. So I found that a lot of people were sort of demoralized with the options that was presented. And often you hear stories of migrants not being able to work in their line of, career that they had had in the previous, country, and, they were not given a lot of options. But I actually felt that, let me just work with what I have, what are the skills that I have, and how can I actually maximize it? Like with any, possibility in life, it's you make lemonade with the lemons rather than looking for what you should have ideally got to do in terms of ingredients in your life. So I've kind of learned pretty much inherently always, even as a child, to say, oh, you know what, it's not that bad not to have a father. I've got a smart mother. We are very comfortable. What is the difference, really? So I've grown up with the feeling that I can do things with or without a man. I did get married. I have 3 beautiful children. I've got twins who are 26 and a 22-year-old daughter. And I've taught them very much to be independent, follow their heart, and do whatever their passion is. So you don't have to survive, but thrive.
Yeah. Oh, wow. It's funny. I also grew up with a single mom, and of course we reconnected with our father later, and then he passed away within a year. But I never felt like I was fatherless or missing that energy, because mom managed to hold strong for the journey of bringing us up in a foreign country. And I'm sure that you also face some challenges that come with, being a single parent financially, Even though you had the spirit, did you have challenges that you had to overcome?
I don't think that I actually ever doubted myself. I actually
Yeah.
divorced when my business was not really robust and very financially strengthened. But I
Mm.
really felt that, I had already seen the journey where migrants had, spent a time, waiting to get the ideal, breakthrough in their career, in financial situations. And I said, I'm going to make it work. So I've had
Right.
amazing, sort of strength that has come from obviously being very spiritual and knowing that I will be looked after no matter what. So I never doubted. So I divorced and I bought a property pretty much in the next 2 years from my neighbor, even though I didn't have a deposit. But my neighbor actually said, just give me whatever the bank gives you and you pay me back later. So, I've had these amazing people who have, but I
It's
think I never doubted myself.
so what I'm hearing is it's no self-doubt or self-belief. Believe in yourself, believe in that you can do it. Take the steps and the universe will conspire to make it happen for you.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. And
Oh,
how we say that, we are at the right place at the right time. It is
yes.
also that what you give to other people to help them will sooner or later manifest in your own life.
Come back tenfold.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly. So I
exactly.
started my journey in finance back in 1997. I became self-employed, and I had taken career breaks also to have my children. And I never thought that I do need a job, but I always felt that because I had a working mother, I did not really want to miss out what I
Yeah.
felt that my mother had missed out and I had missed out because she could not be at these school events and things like that. So in my journey with my three daughters, I was very heavily involved in the parent, committee. I would run the canteens. So I managed to do canteen. I'm very involved with the Vedanta Society since 2001, and I have looked after their finances till date, and done my cooking and done my businesses. So I think that it's really a matter of specific focus.
Yes. That was going to be
Specific
my
focus.
question. That was actually going to be what I'm feeling curious to ask you. Now, there's that side of you that is, super confident in and clear about what you want. Did you have any mentors or coaches or people in your life that helped you with strategies to put your plan into motion? Did you have that sort of influence in your life?
I think my mother was my best, coach and example, because she was a principal of a girls' school in Delhi, which was
Mm.
very much around the refugees from Pakistan. So there's a place in Delhi called Lajpat Nagar. I don't know if any of your audience can relate to it. In the 1970s, it was very temporary accommodation with tin sheds and sort of low roofs, low walls. And
Mm.
there was no fans in those because the ceiling was so low, and people lived like that because it was just built up in a bit of a hurry. And from there I saw my mother give opportunities to some of those girls, and she would say that these are the gifted girls, and she would want to bring them to we used to get them to our house around the exam time. So my mother would say, she would go ask the parents saying that, can your daughter live with me till these exams are over? Because at home they would have to do a lot more work and look after younger siblings, cooking, and in some cases they had to actually go outside and work. So I think that the example that my mother set was very, very much I kind of internalized, and I thought, if she can actually and I think she did it effortlessly without really feeling or thinking it through. It was her compassion.
Yes. And it's
So
a generosity, it's an example, a perfect example of just generous action, taking, and from compassion, of course, and just being of service, she just wanted
yeah,
to be of service. And that takes heart, that takes generosity, and also that detachment to goals and visions and results. She just
There's
did
no
it.
plan or anything like that. It is very much, what I learned was that consistent, persistent action. She just continued to be of, focus that these girls who are smart should be given that opportunity and space to blossom. So there were
Now,
many successful doctors. There was a newsreader. There was, some, they went on to become very successful. And the moment the girls became successful, it was a girls only school. I think that if I think about the satisfaction that my mother got when she retired, and if we were on the road anywhere, like people would run to her.
Yeah, she sounds like a bit of an Indian Oprah, Oprah. Yeah. She sounds like that. But there are so many unsung heroes in the women's, there are so many women mentors like this that do such great work, but then we don't know about them because they're obviously not on TV and social media.
And I think the person that I can think of who was my mentor was actually my first employer. And he was Jewish, Avi Rubenstein. And he actually, I would say, really opened the opportunities for me. In 1997, 1994, I worked for him. It was deep recession. He actually made me the head of sales nationally of FAI, which is an insurance company. And I had no sales, experience, exposure. I just finished architecture. I went there to do technical work of doing projects. But what he showed me was finance was a great enabler. Mm-hmm. And all I learned from him was just simple calculations, how to make work, nothing, no financial calculator, no complex formulas to learn, just the concept of what you do and how time, builds your wealth. And I think I would simply say it's grace and just that opportunity of having learned finance from a Jew. You cannot get better than that.
Wow. And you know what? I just listening to you speak, I don't hear any rigidity in what you're sharing and how you've journeyed through, because I think one of the things I've come across with clients, or even in my earlier journey to understanding money, wealth, or any sort of stabilization that can come from earning money, making money, and all that, it used to feel very rigid that, oh, I have to make this work, etc., right? So even before getting started or asking questions, I would just stop myself because it would overwhelm me. And it's nice to hear that you were receiving some very simple instructions and that can work too. So I was wondering if you would share, what does being wealthy mean to you?
I think I always want to live life on my choice. So yes. That has been my greatest driver. I lived in a great suburb. I grew up with great, sort of friends and people in 1980s. I went to School of Planning and Architecture. It was a very exclusive, small, very nurturing environment, like people were saying, read Fountainhead and, think outside the box, and just learning to be not linear in your thinking. Like, what is it that can make it work? Because what if you get a hilly, horrible site? You still are expected to build. So I think for me, being wealthy is, what do I have as an ingredient, and what is the best use of that resource for me? But I want to maximize what we call in finance return on investment. So being wealthy for me is, what am I doing with not minimum effort necessarily, but what is strategically the most important thing so that I can live my life with choice. And I have always taught my children that, my friends that, my clients that, like, being wealthy is not just acquiring assets, but it's about having cash flow. It's about wanting to, if you want to have ice cream, you don't have to think. If you want to go on a holiday, you don't have to think. If you want to do charity, you don't have to think. You must do. Like, in being wealthy is being able to give in charity, always invest in what you want to grow and everlast in your life. Live very comfortably physically. I've always loved, getting my hair done and nails done. Like, if you ask my children in whatever 26 years they have seen me, that is doesn't matter what is happening. I've
Yes.
always nurtured and pampered myself. I never thought, oh, I can't do this. I used to always say, I'll have a cleaner, I'll work, but I'll pay a cleaner.
I remember that post.
Wealthy. Yes.
Yes. I remember that post about something like that. And I remember commenting about women needing cleaners to optimize their time on earth and freeing themselves up of all these roles that they need to play to feel like a woman. Like, yeah. I was wondering, what kind of behavioral patterns do you see with your clients that you deal with that stop them from, or what you help them kind of, or advise them to give up to be able to become wealthy, because it sounds like it's not just planning financially, but rather having a vision and also following through with actions, like having baselines for I'm not giving this up and I'm going to build on top of this. That takes commitment and behaviors.
I think it is very much around that commitment first. And I think also understanding what is your surge capacity. What can you do without getting fueled? No petrol, but you keep going. And how much will it last? So if you don't invest into your future, if you want to retire at 55 or you want to take a year off, and as women, we have several career breaks. We have career break to have a family. We have a career break to look after, elderly parents, or, anything along those lines. Or you want to take a career break because you're not happy in the direction that you're going and you want to change. And COVID was a very big change maker in our lives, where people said, I think I don't like it anymore and I'm going to do this. I actually put up a post in LinkedIn day before yesterday about, it's okay to take career breaks. But like you said, the behavior is, how can you sort of not stop your wealth making actions just because you're having a child or just because you're having a career break? Have all of that. But
so
sow the seed.
Yes. What is that seed? What is the seed that you give to your clients? That one thing that helps them go, right, I see now.
I think demonstrating that the money is not the limiting factor in your journey towards this direction of being wealthy and being comfortable. It is your action. It is learning to budget, learning to prioritize, and learning to say that these are things that I'm not going to go without. These are important things in my life. So I think it starts with very much of inner reflection. Like I was saying, what is it that you want to have that specific focus on? What makes it so you that you will say that this is mandatory in my life?
Yes.
And
standards.
Yes. And like I was saying, that I wanted to be of service to a community organization, because I realized as a migrant that building that community was really, really important for a new migrant, giving them a place to go to, giving them a place to share their grief, when they didn't know so many people. So I feel that my commitment to building that community, sort of space was very important for me, because I had come here in the 1990s where there were very few Indians or very few people from the subcontinent, and we were very scattered because our lives were like limited. We didn't have a car, or the train was not running on a Saturday, and there was very much of a restriction of whether you would come across these people. Like Diwali celebration in Liverpool was like, I used to wait for like 6 months saying, I'm going to go to these Diwali melas and things like that, which has now become very commonplace. It was very unusual at that time. So I really did prioritize staying connected to my community and invest in it. You can't say I want it without investing in it. It's like, you are hungry, but you don't want to cook.
Beautiful.
You must do that. And also very much around specific focus. What is your, zone of genius? So if somebody says, I don't really enjoy this, but I'm going to take up some sewing and I'm going to have my own boutique, do that, but do that well.
Yes.
Don't do that to escape from what you don't like.
Oh, beautiful. There you go. If we were just talking about this before we started this live, is what's the actual key to success of in any industry, in any job, in any dream to follow through? And we agree, like, it's commitment. You have to commit and believe that you can do it and just do it and see where it takes you.
But I think it's like, there is a Sanskrit word, being prarabt. We each have a zone of genius that we are born with. I'm sorry to use a Sanskrit word. I don't know the English equivalent, but, everybody is damn good at something. And that connection to purpose, if you do that inner reflection, I was very lucky that my connection to purpose came very early in my life. And I've stayed on the course. I haven't, being, in finance for 10 years, made money and then quit. For me, it is not about the money. It is about what do I want to get up and do every day. I still, after 22 plus years, still want to get up and do this because I feel that this is what I'm good at. And if I have manifested, things in my life, and if I have been able to guide people, which has given them happiness, because I have actually mentored more than 30 brokers and more than 1,000 clients now, where I've helped them in their journey. I've given them some form of joy by making their dreams come true. They've done the hard work. I have not done the hard work. I have just been there as a guide. And
because you're following your calling.
Yes,
you're following your calling, and this was the same advice we heard from every other speaker this week, is that we have to be following our why. Why am I doing this? Question that, pause, find out what makes you tick, and then get behind that. And that's going to be so much easier to do than fighting against what you don't want to do.
And I think that as women, we during COVID were very much doing multiple roles on a daily basis, which we were doing unseen for so many years. Yeah. But I think the world has now witnessed it, that we're working at home. We had, work from home. We had children studying all day on Zoom. We were cooking 3 meals. We were a caregiver to our parents or other elderly people that, we are connected with. It will deplete you. So human connections, I think my greatest strength has been meeting a variety of people. I've met your mom at some of these community events, which I used to happily go and attend. I've met mothers who were stay-at-home mothers in the canteen. I've met clients who've gone from, being a very, very ordinary, let's say a bus driver or a, postal worker, to being wealthy, not because it was a driver, it was simply their habits. And I've learned so much from such a lot of variety of people. So human connection is never underestimated.
Exactly. Yes. I mean, this is
as many people as you can.
It's a part of a lifestyle that you live. When you're aligned to your calling, your purpose expands, right? You become a certain quality of person, like your mom, like yourself. And that's how I think we connected, because we were vibrating at the same frequency on that Kali Pujo.
That
Yeah,
is
and
many, many years ago, almost 3 years ago.
3 years ago, yes.
Yeah.
And that's when I was changing to a different building for my yoga studio, and I was building an Ayurveda clinic too, just before 6 or 7 months after which COVID happened, or a year after. But that's the time where I found your ability to be so transparent and so connected to you, really refreshing. And we connected energetically because we understood that, you know what, there's vulnerability in this woman, but also so much authenticity. And that is why I remembered you for this chat, you know. It's that's how the universe works, because if you show up as your completely authentic self and with a mission, people will remember you and they'll give you jobs, they'll give you the connections, they'll reach you, right? It's a ripple effect.
100%. And I think that I really want to say one thing to anybody who's listening to this or the replay, that, you know, you should develop and think of yourself as a leader. You should not think of yourself as a businesswoman or a mother. You should think of, you know, what is it that I do so well that the world will see me and hear me. And I think that investing in yourself, I've spent many, and I still continue to be mentored myself. I have a business coach, and I've had for the last 5 years, and, you know, different levels. So you work with a mentor, you outgrow the mentor, you go to the next level of, you know, educating yourself. You know, the world has changed so much with COVID. What do? You know, how to keep moving to the higher plane where you impact more people. You slowly, you know, go from yourself to your family, to your community, country, world. But I think you have to do it because you see yourself as a leader of something.
That's pure wisdom. Thank you so much for mentioning that. This is really empowering, right? These are tools of empowerment, and this is where service goes to the next level, when you ask for help to become your best version and never stop doing that. That's part of the growth journey and a mindset that, you know, if I want to become wealthy, and whatever that means for me, I need to be willing to ask what I want, ask for what I want. And many of us get stuck at not being seen, or having a need to ask. We think, you know, we've got all sorts of limiting beliefs and mindsets and practices that stop us from growing to be wealthy in life. Wealth is not just money, it's everything.
See, wealth will, like in COVID, for example, you know, we all had severe mental health issues. Physically, we were inhibited from working out and exercising. But, you know, that connection where people were doing Zoom lessons and all, not necessarily a lot of money, but it's just that mindset of staying connected with humans, other people who continue to add to your life, motivate you moving forward, and help you build capability. That's the other thing. How do you build capability in business? Is by investing in people, sharing your knowledge, teaching them what you know, learning from your team, and having a diverse team. I'm not very good at technology, but I'm very good at concepts. So I have, you know, the universe will figure it out. You just have to say, this is what I need in my business. You reach out. Nowadays, we are all connected on social media. You just have to ask. You can see there's a platform like Indian Moms Connect. You know, a lot of people ask questions. I actually answered to some of the anonymous financial questions that are asked on that platform. So, you know, I work with the editorial people, but it's really about people, process, systems, and infrastructure. It doesn't matter at what level it is. You need to make sure that you actually can become a leader in wealth. It's not a passive wealth saying, you know, you bought stocks and shares and you've got money, but unless that money is actually flowing through the systems, you will not become wealthy.
Good point. That's great.
And I think the other thing I would say is you really need to run your own race. You need to run the marathon, and it's not a sprint. It is just, it's everything in wealth is long term. Like I was saying, now you could just start with owning your own car. Then you say, okay, I'm going to build a share portfolio. Then you buy a house. Then you buy multiple houses. Maybe you go into business. Maybe you invest into a partnership of doing something, and you will enjoy this journey far more, because every time the opportunities expand, and what keeps you motivated is that expansive opportunities, like what we are doing today, is that reconnection, and then seeing where we can take it from there.
Yeah.
Now,
And in yoga, yoga, they use the symbolism of a lotus flower, like you have to wait till it opens, and we have all this potential, and you just need to give it that potential, the help and the assistance and the nurturing to keep growing. And we're all like that, right? We can all follow that same process of a flower, even if it's not a lotus. It's the nature of nature, and Ayurveda talks about this, that we've all got that potential to grow. We just have to keep giving ourselves the right circumstances, right harmonious conditions, and that's what you're talking about in wealth creation.
That's very, very true, because in my journey, in my finance and how I work with clients, has got that very philosophical flavor to it. It's not just saying, okay, we'll just keep buying houses. It's like, why do you need this? How much is enough? And also, I think somewhere in the back of my mind, as an architect, we were always taught to perceive the end. Look at what the building looks like. Look at what kind of life you want. Do you want a Ferrari, or you want a holiday, or you want to go and do some charity work in India? I actually have a client, they're a Chinese couple. They work 6 months, and 6 months with a young family, they go and do charity. They're both doctors. They don't work 6 months. They're in their late 30s. So there is a lot of right way to live. It's your right way. It doesn't mean anything to anybody that you have a job, or you live in a house, or you drive this car. That is not being wealthy. Wealthy is living life of choice.
Amazing. I have to be honest now. I really want to share that I had no idea that our chat was going to be so wholesome and so spiritual and so practical and eye-opening to what wealth actually looks like. And the path of creating wealth is so unique for everybody. It's not just one size fits all. And it can be a skill that we can all learn. Like I was going to ask you some other questions that I'm just not even going to ask.
No, please go ahead. We try and answer all the questions you have. I'll be quick.
You've already answered in such another beautiful way. Like, what are the basic steps to creating wealth? But you've just shared, like, first we have to have the vision. We have to know what's the right desire for us or for our own map, of reality and map of success. Isn't it? And what would you say if someone asked you?
Build the house in your mind.
Yeah.
You have to know what kind of a house you want to live in, right? People say, when I say house, it's not just the physical aspect. What does it look like? Do you need a garden? Do you need to be near the water, or you like the mountains? What is it that you want? Does it mean that you live on a farm, or you want to go to living in an apartment? You have a lifestyle which means a lot of travel. What is it that you want to do? So as an architect, when we were taught about designing, we were always taught to design. If it's a school, what does the school look like? Who is going to use it, and will they enjoy using that? And in this case, being wealthy is you. You also need to do two more things. You need to make sure you prepare and you prevent. So with wealth, you'll also have situations of loss.
Yes. Okay.
Okay. And being prepared is never enough. You cannot be super prepared and fully prepared for those losses. You will have situations in your life which are out of your control. It could be health, it could be jobs, or it could be, change in priorities. I actually know clients who actually had to pretty much stop their own personal growth because they've got a handicapped child or, a sick child. And I think that being prepared to accept that these are the things that can go wrong, but then having some kind of, plan B and having a diversified form of income is very much a part of the growth journey of being wealthy. So don't rely on one source. Prepare by having multiple diversified sources of income so that your loss prevention in the whole thing is minimized.
Yes.
But always the big picture. You must sit down with yourself and then find a mentor to work with your big picture. I know people who just do event management, and COVID was a showstopper for them, but it didn't prevent them. Some people, they folded their business, but some people thrived, including selling coffee. I mean, some of the coffee shop in Melbourne, they've got stories that you will, they started selling packaged foods and all of that kind of thing. So I think understanding that zone of genius, don't do this because somebody else is doing it. Look into your own zone of genius. You're talking about Ayurveda, you've got that Vata, Pitta, Kapha. I mean, you've got these, tendencies. So work with, don't say that, oh, I can't do this, or I'll do this later. I think one of the greatest lessons in wealth is Kaizen. If you go to my LinkedIn profile, daily, continuous improvement. You can ask your questions.
You're such a natural guru. I mean, I'm not a guru worshipper, but you're such a natural guru because you're so connected to that voice within. I really appreciate that about you. And I totally believe that, you're such a, that's where your authenticity lies. And I'm so grateful that you made time for us today to share your greatness, this amazing value. You are going to share that, when I asked you earlier, like, what is one step that any woman watching today, or anyone watching, I don't care if it's a woman or a man, but what can they take to get on their journey to work? Do you think there's a certain type of person that can start taking mentoring from you?
Anybody can start taking mentoring. But like I said, you have different mentors for different parts of your journey.
Okay.
But for anybody who's listening or watching today, for the next 6 months, you can have a personal one-on-one session from 15 minutes to 30 minutes that I will personally be doing with you in that session, which is totally free of cost. Wow. I would love to see you get started on your journey towards wealth creation, whatever that looks like. It could be selling from your kitchen.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing, because this is the, this is the gift you're giving away, I'm guessing. And that's so, I mean, I'm going to book in a session with you myself, because it's right. It's to as many people as they want, right?
Yeah.
Amazing.
I will share and give them some time, because it's made it easy to give time, like we're talking on a weekend. We are not physically losing time going to try and meet people. So it'll be online session for minimum of 15 minutes to about 30 minutes, 40 minutes. I'm not saying that, I'll cut off at 30 minutes. I want to just see, connect together with whoever is wanting to start on their journey or is already on their journey and is struggling somewhere. It could be that one thing that they need to hear or need to do. I will do my best, because I've been coaching now since 2008 in my industry.
And me being a coach, I can tell the way you're geared and the way you language it and the way you are inspiring. That's exactly it. You sound like someone that's done the work, and that's what we need to do. We have to be invested in it, in ourselves, to be able to pass it and pay it forward, to be impactful. And that's why I really believe in what every single word you're saying, you know. To me, that's just like, what a blessing. And I don't think anyone should miss out on this opportunity to work with you, especially when you're offering to be so generous and offering a up to 30-minute session with you on Zoom, which is so easy to do these days. So really, 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 really big thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. And I think that one other thing that comes to mind is that with wealth, the opportunities can come from any side. Don't be closed. It can be a younger person giving you an opportunity, talking about an idea. It could be linked to an area of work that you do not have any expertise in. I mean, I have being an architect to being a finance person, I was not looking at anything like this. I was not close to the idea, but when this presented, I just found it very easy to learn whatever was presented to me. So explore everything. Don't say, no, I haven't done this before, or I just want to continue to work in this area because I've done so. There's everything for a season and everything for a reason. So please explore, please be open-minded. Anybody give you a hand up. And I think that in this time of so much of technology in our lives, it can come from anywhere.
Wow, that's amazing advice. Openness. It's the universe, really, isn't it? It's the universe guiding you to follow your calling or take that advice to get you to where your soul wants to go, your spirit needs to go. Correct. That's amazing. Well, I think you're going to, I will post under every one of these lives how to get in touch with Madhuji, to book your free session with her, to get you started on your wealth creation journey. Is there anything else you'd like to share before we wrap it up today? Or
I think there are a couple of questions you haven't asked me, and I really like to.
Okay. Yes. Well, I actually wanted to ask you, from my list, I was curious about what are the common myths about wealth among women. Is that something I think we've already covered that it's just a bias.
Us see ourselves as that I have to, first be a daughter or a mother or a person in this job, that I kind of don't put badges on what you are and what you do. And I think that's a very common myth, that I have to, work and I want to invest in my child's future. Therefore, I can only do a part-time work. I think learning to be someone who's disciplined with their time can do anything. I mean, we all have our 24 hours, and I have actually been able to, I really don't know how I did everything I did in one day, but I think it's very to do with the fact that I've always gotten up very early in the morning, and I've always done it all my life. And I went to a Air Force school, very disciplined, very structured in my time, very inflexible about wasting my time.
That's a standard you set for yourself, and that's a high standard to have if you want to achieve and manifest whatever you want to manifest, right? Time is, like you said, we all get the same 24 hours, and it all comes down to how do we optimize those 24 hours.
And I think the biggest myth that I still find a lot of people saying, I can't buy this house, I don't have the money, I don't earn enough, but I want this kind of a house, or I want this kind of a business. I mean, everybody's life, and you look at people like Elon Musk, did not come with billions.
No.
I think that, being open is very, very much the key, saying, how can you get there?
Yes.
But that you want to go to this destination is of greatest importance. So the myth of not having enough money to do this, or not having enough time to do this, is very standard. Or I'll do it later. I'll do this 6 months later. The 6 months never comes.
Exactly. And, it's synonymous with what I teach in my yoga training programs. It's the Yoga Sutras have taught us that the root cause of all our, situations that we are not preferring is ignorance, or the absence of correct vidya. So all we need to do is ask, how can I do it? Instead of saying, this is all there is, or, just accepting the fact that your mind has told you, I can't get that house, or I can't do this. No, ask. If you want it, ask, how can I do it? That's the difference between someone that will be successful versus someone that will stay stuck.
The other thing is that people want something, but they don't want to commit to the journey. They want that thing. And I think committing to the journey is as important as the destination. Really, as you and I all know, that there is no prize at the end of the journey.
It's the journey. It's the journey. Like this chai that we're having, imaginary chai and chat that we're having, this is the beauty of the journey, where you're like, you're getting to be yourself.
Very much a 6-figure business or a 7-figure business. You will only get that if you go to that 2-figure business. Then you get to the 6-figure business, or you bring in a partner who takes you to the 7-figure business. So those opportunities will come once you're on the road.
Yes.
So course is very important to the wealth creation, and committing to helping people along the journey. So if somebody is helping you build your wealth, invest in them. It could be a staff, it could be some referral partner. Make sure that you're doing more. One thing that I learned from Swami Sridharananda at the Ramakrishna Mission is saying that you do your work so well that nobody else can do better than you.
See, and this is the impact you create. And we always, I think we always want to see how many people we affected. But the whole thing is, if you have affected even one person, that in itself is a big shift, because you never know what they're going to be able to do with the help you gave them, right?
Correct. Investing in other people means that what you are doing is multiplying it many folds. So therefore, my journey of mentoring and teaching other brokers to help migrants, we need a little bit more help than a simple person who's inherited wealth, is already from a wealthy base, and to help them springboard to something bigger is much easier. With us as migrants, we have to go through, it's not a harder journey, it's just it's a different path, but you can get there bigger and better depending. You take people along with you. I've got people who still work with me 11 years later in my business, because I have made sure that I have given them fruits of the success. I've given them the space, and you must give them the opportunity to get what you are getting in terms of wealth. So make other people wealthy, you'll become wealthier.
Yes, these are good ethics to be having when you're leading, and leading, like you mentioned, we work on leadership through sharing the profit. If you share the profit, you'll make more profit, right? But I've worked for many bosses that don't do that. They don't even give you a thanks at the end of the year, and you still see that in wellness industry, and you'd be surprised.
I think that feeling of lack, that I'm only making so much, I can't afford to give this away. They haven't, each industry has its own problems. In the finance industry, there's a whole concept of greed. So people want to make more money at any cost. So they will do anything, which could be unethical, to reach there as well. So I think every industry has its sort of norms. If that hospitality pays less, or wellness pays less, but I think that the next generation that is coming in, they want fairness, they want social investment in what is happening to society. And I think it's a far more selfless generation. And I actually learning to not have air conditioning, carbon footprint, or not owning a car. None of my daughters want to own a car, because they think that a go-get can do the job, or a public transport can do the job. So I think that the next generation will not have the problem. It's just a generational shift, and that has already started. That the people who are coming through now, and the next set of leaders, are far more inclusive, far more transparent. And I think technology is enabling that far more. And working from home, you're respecting the fact that they're going to work. That means you trust them. And if you trust them, you'll share more. And they can see how much money you're making. And if you do give them that opportunity to be transparent, you'll earn more respect, and you will get people to come along much longer with you.
Those are pure wisdom. And even though, I think every entrepreneur will resonate with you that has made it, that has been on this journey of entrepreneurship, and who are aligned to their calling, and who are trying to make that social impact in whatever they're doing, how they can help community as well as they help themselves, because Seva, one of the meaning of Seva is selfless service, but you can't do that if you're not serving yourself at the end of the day. You can't be of Seva. And so that's like an attitude, that's a way of thinking, and it's all we're here to do, really. I think it's our purpose to be of service. That's our purpose, biggest purpose here on earth.
The last thing I'd like to say about wealth is very much around, the oxygen mask in the plane. So when people say, I want to help my child, I want to build a home, and I'm going to give them rent-free property, and they're already 65, I always say that you can only help others if you are, full yourself. So your cup at any given time has to be full. So first and foremost, pay yourself. Make sure you're well rested. Do not work 7 days. Very, very important. You need time to rest and relax. And Sundays is just a concept. You can pick any day, but do not work 7 days. So you have time to, recover physically, recover mentally, and you have that reflection time. You're not on autopilot doing anything.
Exactly. Yes.
If you want to be wealthy, it's looking at opportunities, identifying opportunities, comes from a place of resting and not doing anything.
Yes, music to my ears. Thank you. Now, one more question that I did want people to know about is the journey of Madhu. Like, what is that, the one that you were inspired to share as well? Your journey.
I would love to share my journey if it actually helps someone, either through resonance or through, what have been my key pillars that actually have helped me. So I came, I'm born in the 60s. I'm now in my mid 50s. And my schooling was, like I told you, was in Air Force Balbharti from New Delhi, very, very much in the growing years of the school, very structured. You had to do sports, you had to study. So I was always, someone who's a high achiever. I was very good at painting, music. It's typical Bengali, had learned dance and music and all of that. And I'm very grateful for having that in my life. I still continue to support, music concerts so that, it brings joy to a lot of people. And from there, going into the architecture and having those amazing lifelong friends who were very much a part of my journey, where I discovered myself, from my late teens to my early 20s, then getting married and coming to Australia as a person coming from the middle of Delhi to Australia in the 1990s, where shops were shut on Saturday, Sunday, was like, this is the middle of bloody nowhere. So, and I'd watched Crocodile Dundee. For people who haven't watched Crocodile Dundee in this generation, please go and watch. I know it's a bit outdated, but that was my impression of Australia. But I was very grateful. Like I said, I got my job within the first week of arriving in this country in the 1990s, and recession was unheard of. And I think that human connections, my thesis guide knew somebody in Australia, and he had written the letter. I went to that, organization. It was a very successful architectural firm, McConnell Smith and Johnson, who designed Darling Harbour in Sydney and the Olympic Park. So they were big.
That's huge.
That's huge. So all they said is, you can speak English, you can join.
Great.
So I think it's that human connection. I asked my thesis guide before I came here saying, I'm leaving for Australia. I said, I'm very sad to see you go. And he was J.K. Chaudhuri. He worked with Le Corbusier, who was the architect for Chandigarh. He was a very famous French architect. So I've never been shy of asking.
Yeah.
Never been shy of asking, say, I want this. How can I get it? And even if it seems stupid, I said, I don't know these people, but I'll give it a go. So I rang up, got my job, worked there, and I said, I don't really want this kind of a job. Went back to India, came back 6 months later. I worked with my thesis guy, J.K. Chaudhuri, ran his office. And when I came back, I said, I don't want a job as an architect. But that's all I thought to myself. I don't want to be stuck in that kind of a environment, which there has no creativity, no client contact, nothing that you can visibly see. I was designing toilets at Randwick TAFE there. So when I came back in 1991, I got into this FAI property, deep recession. They had inherited a lot of properties from those, bankruptcies and so forth. And they were starting to see what can be done with this pub that we have inherited in Manly Vale. It became a unit development, but just trying to sell that in those very, very difficult times, but not feeling that these are difficult times. I had just come from India. There is no recession in India. We've got like 1.3 billion population. There is no recession because there's so much of inner demand that is happening, but just not thinking that there is a problem. I never I made my own decision that this is good or this is bad, not because I listened in the news or what other people told me. I'm that way quite insular, sadly, but it's also given me a lot of strength to do the things that I have. And like I said, my journey with the firm FAI Property has been spectacular. My boss gave me properties when they were not selling. He said, you can get a loan, you have a job, whatever loan you get, you can buy this property. I said, I don't have a deposit. He said, don't worry about it. So I've had kindness shown to me from unexpected sources, unlikely sources. So that was the journey of my property, sort of understanding how the property investment works. So one day he sat me down saying, this is the rent, this is the loan, this is how it gets repaid. You can just, slowly pay this down, principal and interest loans, and you don't worry about it. And I got to buy property in Crow's Nest and Newtown. And I thought, thinking, oh, okay, I've got these girls, they might go to university. And I bought it thinking because of that. But at the back of my mind, it was this great, confidence that what my boss has taught me will work. And so, from one to another, I actually built up a good property portfolio because I was paying the loan down and then the rent was coming in as additional income. And from there, when my mother was, I was having a conversation with my mother in 99. I'd already, 98, sorry. The last conversation was that, you're so busy, you're not spending time with your children. I had a nanny for my girls. So I said, come on, this is just how it is overseas. You don't have help. And then she actually died in a car accident. And the fact that I could not go to her funeral because my boss said, I don't have a problem if you can go. That was in February 98. And at that moment, I realized that a job does not give me freedom. How good the boss was. And I said to him that in India, if you die, your body is cremated within 1 or 2 days. So he said there was a big settlement that had to be done for a property in Brisbane. And he said, you can go like 3 days later.
Oh my gosh.
So I never went. But at that moment, I decided, like, the pretty woman, I say who, I say how much, I say where. That was a great defining moment for me to say, I will not be asking for my freedom from anybody. You know?
That means clapping, because that realized that you turn that negative experience into a source of fuel for the next phase of your life.
Correct. So I worked there till June of 98. And then I took time off and I said, I will go and do my own thing. A lot of people who had dealt with me said, you know, we don't deal with the company, we deal with you. You can basically be your, you know, we will still deal with you. And I, you know how you think you work for a company, you will never get the business directly.
Okay.
I had coming to me because of the past performance that I had had in the difficult years. So I think the fact that I had always put in my 100% in whatever I do. And I think it's like how you do one thing is how you do everything.
Yes.
You know?
And if you show up, the world shows up for you if you show up.
Yes. So from pretty much 97, I have formed my business and I became a GIO agent for deposit bonds. And I could write up to $1 million. I had signing authority from GIO, which is still a company. And from there, 99, went to work for Satellite Group, which listed in 99 in September. And then it went belly up the next year. So 98, 99, and 2000 were very difficult years in terms of finance. But what I did in 2099, when I was actually not working, is I went and studied financial planning. Because in my journey of, you know, working with people who are buying property, a lot of people would ask me saying, is it okay? I'm selling my property. I'm buying this unit. I want to go and live in Gold Coast and all this. And I thought, I'm not equipped to answer any of this question. So I went and studied. I wanted to, you know, understand what financial planning meant. And then I realized, you know, when I finished my course, that I really don't enjoy financial planning. I want that contact with people, and I want to be part of even the smallest transaction of buying a car, or, you know, because just even that structuring was super important to get to that final goal. So I've been in business since 97 as Finance and Mortgage Solutions. I've won multiple awards. I was the 2018 New South Wales Best Broker, and or in my industry, these are industry awards. And I think that I've been winning awards from my school, Shankar's International School. And I think that it was never the award that has motivated me. It was always that human connection of making someone happy, of seeing that growth in their lives. And, you know, what some of my close friends used to always say, you know, you're working too much, you shouldn't be working too much, you should be enjoying. But I always play the long game. I always tell people I'm a Melbourne Cup girl. I always bet Melbourne Cup. I don't do horse racing daily. So I think the long game was very, very important, and it still remains. So I still do a lot of financial planning, mortgage broking on a daily basis directly with clients. But I've also made mentoring a very big part of my journey from 2008. And this year I've officially become a mentor in the industry. For my biggest success has been making a lot of people one was a train driver who came to me as a client, is now taking a career break, is not working, is finally spending time with his children. And another person was a security guard, and his wife was working and he wasn't. And I said, if I give him this ability to earn, it will bring self-respect into the relationship. So it was not about making money or that. It was enabling them to be someone that they see themselves as sufficient.
Yes.
And so I have been in this industry now as a broker from 2006. So I'm hoping that I don't use the word retire. I just use the word evolve into other things. And I'm looking to continue to do as long as I'm healthy. And I can actually remember names and places.
It's a blossoming, it's a blossoming that you are demonstrating, and that's why there is no such thing as retirement for people like yourself, because you're just following that energy of, service and impact, service and impact, and getting fulfilled by what you do, by seeing such amazing results in people, by empowering
Yeah,
others.
yeah. And I think a deep, desire for me when I came here, just from seeing migrants being underperforming, under, sort of a lot of financial stress. It made me feel that as migrants, if we can empower this generation, the first generation financially, the next generation lives better and bigger lives. And
Yes.
we will then basically become strong in what we want as a community, and what we want as you know people with desires. Like now that we have temples being built everywhere, and I have actually been part of the financial journey of the big Gurdwara in Parkley. So I've actually, I can only offer loans. I don't do big donations like that, but just
Mhm.
being an enabler um, to the journey of being a migrant, and making sure that we give opportunities to everybody, big or small, in their own way. They should feel that they've had something that they've built in their lives. It gives them that satisfaction. Their children feel that, my parents can't do this, but this can be done. Or there are organizations, and I think the next generation of these community organizations will be able to do a lot more charity, because this is the build phase of the community. And I think the next generation of migrants who are coming in will have a lot better base. Like, we saw in COVID or the GFC, the Gurdwaras and temples in India were struggling. But all
Mhm.
these organizations here, I can talk about the Ramakrishna Mission. We helped a lot of students during the student crisis, and the Gurdwara continues to help, even in COVID, the free meals and all of that kind of thing has been given to hundreds of people, not maybe thousands. I
Yes.
think is a big desire of mine, that other migrant people who want to become brokers will continue to help and gain from the knowledge that I have got, to build better life
Mhm.
for people that they touch.
Amazing. I will also talk to you about this in another meeting for myself, because Seva changed into a social enterprise during this COVID reform stage that we all went through. I feel like that's what we need to become as businesses now, if we are having that opportunity to help the community sustain itself while we go through big upheavals and changes and shifts, while they need it, and if we are in a position to somehow strategize some of the income or some of the contributions to go towards sustaining community health, I think that's a really good thing to broaden ourselves to be of service even further. Yeah, but I'll chat to you about that very soon. So what is it
Or
called?
SEFCA, SEFA. No,
Yes, safer, innovative
SEFA.
lending.
Yeah. So innovative lending is basically for social enterprises.
Right, there you
I'm
go.
I'm also a mentor for Rare Birds, which is for a platform for women entrepreneurs with
Mhm.
Joe Burston. So if you look at Rare Birds and Joe Burston, I've been a mentor there for 3 years. So my gift in this lifetime is very much about enabling through finance. That is my language of love, that I was telling, that if there is a solution out there, I will read, I will learn, I would see what is it that can be done. So if you're asking that, you want some help, there's government funding, there's social funding, there's crowdfunding. There's just so much possibilities out there now for
Yes.
things. Even that, if you are of service, and if it's going to make an impact, and it shows that it has legs, as they call it, then
Mm.
there is money for everything now.
Amazing. You see, Well, from speaking to you today, I have learned so much more about you, and I love you even more now. And I feel like, your mentorship sounds like a holistic journey to bettering ourselves, regaining power. And I love the way you have chosen to use the word enable, because a lot of the time we get a negative connotation to enablement. But when you join it with something of power that can enable us to be, do, have whatever it is that we're trying to be, do, have, it's a journey worthwhile taking. Have you had fun being here with us today?
Thank you so much. All I can say is that I have so much been surprised by this conversation, because I was open to whatever,
Yeah.
the universe brought to me, and I would just said I will show up and do what I can. But it's been a very nice afternoon, because it has allowed me to marry my two great loves, finance and spirituality, and that's really been very, very, touching.
Yeah, oh, great to hear that. It's lovely, lovely, lovely to connect again. And I will take up on your offer of that free consult.
Please.
I'm not going to miss out on that.
So
And I
anybody
encourage
email me with their name and mobile number, and we'll reach out and book some time. And it can even be up to 6 o'clock in the evening. So
I
just
will actually post all the specifics on every one of these lives. And this video will also be available on YouTube very shortly. So if you feel like this video and the information and inspiration can help someone you know, please do not hold this information back from them.
absolutely.
Because this is why we are doing recordings and not just a live just to be appearing, so please do share it on. But I would love to wrap up the whole 5-day journey of celebrating Women's Day. And I'm so grateful that I have such an amazing, inspirational woman next to me, also Bengali and also soulful, follows her spiritual calling and makes it happen financially, and is a great role model for believing in yourself. And that's the Break the Bias movement, I feel, in a nutshell. So so all gratitude to all 5 women that came to the lives and showed up and shared about their gifts and inspired us to take that next step and keep moving towards the journey of just being your super powerful, empowered woman self. And
Great advice, yes. And thank you again for this opportunity.
Thank you so much. All right,
Thank you.
bye. Have a good day, everybody.
Thank you.